We're back, and as things happen in live radio, is sometimes your guests that come from afar, they end up getting hauled off on other things. I'm one of those that is a victim of that sometimes, is that you get pulled in many directions. It's like tomorrow I hop on a plane and I'm out right after the show. I just travel, and sometimes you don't know what's going to come up. That being said, is that we are blessed with the fact that Kory can join us today. We were talking about Kory with Aaron Henning in just a minute from iNVATERRA, and we asked them to stay over since they were here. And they hopefully didn't have something else to do, and they didn't, and so they're going to stay over the next segment, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of iNVATERRA's breadth of offering and some of the things that they have. And as Kory kind of pointed out, he said that, let's dive into something that we only touched on in the last segment, and we only had a little bit of knowledge here, and that's about the intelligent automation. And you say those words, Kory, and you have to ask the question is, what is intelligent automation? And I can only imagine it's different for everyone, but is there a somewhat of a generic umbrella that you can put over it that gives us an idea what that means?
Sure. And of course, thanks for having us on the show. And
well, I'm glad you could stay.
Absolutely,
you saved us.
No, glad to be a part of it.
Okay, Kory, just a second. Speak it right into the mic, right in the middle of that microphone right there.
All right.
So Diamond can hear you.
So let me kind of give you an analogy. Back when we had machines, physical robots replacing your blue-collar workers in the factories, and there was a industrial revolution that moved industry and skills into a different direction. You had physical robots doing redundant, repetitive work that created efficiency, pushed by consumer demand for better, faster, cheaper products. Today, what is dubbed the catalyst for the fourth industrial revolution are software robots that are mimicking human behavior in the white-collar space. So they're going to drive towards the next skill set, upgrading people's skill set, moving them away from repetitive remedial work, but not by physical robots, by software robots. So that's your robotic process automation, where you have an actual software bot that is acting and functioning like a human being would, allowing you to shift that precious skill set into a more thought-leading position, and also driving efficiencies and change.
So I don't mean to just speed bump in your thought process there, but that would seem like it would dovetail with things like nanotechnologies and some of those others, because some of the nanotechnologies have smart bots and software that drive them. Is that the same industry, or is it a parallel industry, or what is it? So
it's you can look at it all as future driven, and so everything is moving towards the future. Nanotechnologies, one of those things. There's a plethora of new AI-based tools and technologies that are coming
which I want to get
place.
into next. Yeah,
absolutely. So just to kind of tie up the last thought, the difference between your traditional robotic process automation that has been sort of being spearheaded in the last few years and intelligent automation is the ability for the machine to actually understand the different types of data and documents and input it's getting from a variety of different sources and making decisions. So where your machine learning or AI is actually put at the data ingestion side. So it really advances the ability for that machine and that software to understand what it's taking in and how to take the actions beyond it. So that's what we're implementing. But to tie into your next question about artificial intelligence in the future, I mean it's a constantly moving target, and enterprises today have to be heavily focused towards it.
So the barriers to entry, I believe, and I have seen some of the price tags when you're starting to move into these automation type of business models, if you will, is that there's a price tag now today because the code and some of the things that are out there, the barriers to entry is so high, the expense is so high. Do you see that coming down?
No, absolutely not. It's quite the opposite. Think of it this way. You have an organization, say a finance and accounting organization of a large enterprise with, say, 200, 300 finance and accounting individuals at a loaded cost of, say, $100,000 a year.
Okay.
That's $30 million a year that they're spending on volume. You replace that with bots that are costing you a couple $100,000 and are taking these actions repetitively in a more precise, intelligent way, working 24 hours a day. You're saving a lot of money right off the bat.
What's the thought processes that they are now conveying that is artificial intelligence that the human would be doing in normal operations with the human?
So that's, there's some room for pontification and speculation.
Oh, okay.
Aaron touched on some of these interesting topics. So we do a lot of these talks around this topic on our keynote platform. But one of the things that Aaron mentioned was that every company, irrespective of what you are today, you can be a small bakery, you can be a giant corporation. Tomorrow, you're not selling a product anymore. You're selling an experience. And you're a technology company selling that experience. The product just happens to be the niche that you're focusing that experience around.
Okay.
And so you look at the experience of going into your car, going into the mall, walking all the way into a retail outlet inside the mall to buy a shirt from a limited inventory versus the experience that Amazon is selling, which is convenience. And so now you transcend that more broad across industry. If you're a restaurant, if you're a shop, if you're a bakery, you've got to sell the experience. If you're a product company, you've got to sell the experience.
Okay, so how does the artificial intelligence help me with that? What I'm trying to drill down to is trying to get to.
You're absolutely going on the right path. So the best way for me to sell you an experience is to know more about you.
Of course.
So when you walk into my store, if I have the data necessary and I have driven that data to build the algorithms and the predictive models to be able to cater to your experience better, you're going to end up having a better experience.
Right. But I'm the soup guy on Seinfeld. Is that a better? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm sure. No soup for you. Yeah.
That's an experience, right? Yeah. People went back. They wanted it because they said no.
Yeah. So let me kind of.
That's what kind of artificial intelligence I want.
and so let me kind of pull back a little bit because these little examples they're hard to.
Let me not let you get it.
Sure.
Let's go through the break here. We got a break coming up here, and she just put up the 1 minute card. I knew it was coming, but this is an interesting topic because I want to kind of get into this and kind of get down to all the variables and the algorithm that goes into this. And so I think the thought process of all of us trying to understand this and trying to get to AI is going to take over all our jobs, but this is a different direction. This is there's a lot of room for a lot of people to be able to be contributors here and get salaries and pay taxes and get payroll and everything else. So I do want to talk about this right after the break. So you're listening to Vince Rowe. I apologize for Dylan Conroy, who's not here. He's off in Spain, my understanding is. We're not going to be able to get him on the phone. So sitting in with us is Kory. And sorry, Kory, I don't have your last name. But
Farooquie.
Farooquie and Aaron Henning. They're going to sit over here and talk a little bit more about some of the engagements and some of their offerings in iNVATERRA. We'll be right back. Welcome back to CEO Money. This is Vince Rowe sitting for Michael Yorba, who's out on assignment this week. And we are lucky enough to have Aaron Henning and Kory here with us still to cover the bottom of the hour. And we'll work our way into David Williams coming on from Page Trader right after the segment. But you were leaving us on our edge of our seat here, Kory, right before the break. And
sure.
We were talking about it, but I wanted to make sure that you did it justice, so we held you over on edge.
No, absolutely. So
let's finish out that thought process. Let's kind of go back a little bit, give us a little compendium vision of what we're talking about, and let's segue into it.
So I think that what we were talking about is how whatever it is that you're selling, you've got to sell the experience and be a technology company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we enable. So I'll give you an example. We say Toys R Us failed, they had too much debt. But in reality, Toys R Us failed because they weren't selling an experience. The experience that we grew up with from a Toys R Us perspective was nostalgia. Mm-hmm. That's the experience we had and go into a store. But now it's convenient, and I have a giant inventory online or wherever, so why would I go there? Versus if Toys R Us had gotten rid of, say, 2/3 of their inventory, made space for slime centers and sand blocks and blocks or whatever, so I could take my kid and have an experience, mm-hmm. I think Toys R Us would still be alive. and be thriving, actually. And so take that analogy and look at every business. And a lot of companies have their blinders on. They're in industries where they think we'll be here forever. But they've got their blinders
that's
on.
not true.
So, that's the thing. What we do is we kind of wake an enterprise into understanding, look, this is where you got to go. And the first thing you got to do to get there is to create money and save money, create efficiency, get ahead of your competitive edge against your competitors. And so automation and intelligent automation is the first step towards that, because it's such a huge extractor of funds that you already have you can leverage to other technologies. Now, from there, we go into creating the roadmaps, implementing the tools, technologies, people, skills to enable them to get to that digital enterprise, get to that user experience, understand the user experience, pull data, leverage data, harness data. It's all about data. Data is the new fuel. Data is the new currency. And our goal is to take enterprise, irrespective of what industry or what size you are, to be able to thrive in the future. In order to do that, they have to go through this digital transformation journey, which starts at the automation, goes to the goals, and then the enablement. And we feel that if you go on that path, that you are going to be, the one that saved that enterprise, instead of being the one that held on to your legacy and could have been the last one that could have saved your enterprise.
Your pride. Yeah.
So, I'm going to hand it off to Aaron, because, he talks a lot about also, part of our keynote addresses is not just doing that, but creating the chaos of disruption and then being that beacon in that disruption in an organization, and that as a goal.
Right. Now, Aaron, does fear not come along with that?
Well, sure. I think
disrupted.
The word disruption often is going to carry some negative connotation, right? But really, we got to look at it in a totally different way. Disruption is awesome. Disruption is where innovation happens. Disruption is where people and companies become better. To Kory's exact example, you look at Toys R Us, and let's say you reduce their inventory by 2/3. I recently took my kids to the new Crayola experience. We're talking about crayons, and there's an entire store built around that. It's filled with people, and it's amazing, and it's awesome. And they create this experience that creates the kind of brand loyalty that can never be matched by a shelf full of things, where you're getting to put your name or whatever you want on the label of a crayon and dip your hands in wax and make something and melt crayons and draw with that. And so
sounds like it doesn't involve a screen.
No, and this is a product company, Crayola, that's competing not only against technology and a stylus, but also against the product sellers that are going out of business because of online shopping. So they are creating experience centers. What an amazing idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
I definitely have to share a link with you. It's what I have a whole bunch of money invested in right now. I'll share it to you later. But it's entertainment, it's interactive, and it's kind of a retro thing. But at the end of the day, is that so you're looking at the experience, and so do you take in consideration the experience for the existing demographic of folks that may be older like us, or are you looking at the millennials, or do you have to take in consideration all of the different demographics?
All of the above. It's everybody, absolutely.
So you really have to span a wide spectrum when you're thinking about an experience, because it means something different to every age, maybe gender, and individual, maybe as far as monetary.
Look, I mean, LPs are great to listen to. There's some stores that still sell LPs.
There's vinyl stores.
Vinyl stores, yeah. I wouldn't want to invest in starting that business.
Right.
But it's an experience for someone. We're focused on taking large enterprises and catering to not just the millennials, but the generation that's coming after them, the AI native generation, the ones that's used to talking to machines, the one that needs their data and expects you to know everything about them.
Gotcha. So Kory, Aaron, I want to thank you today for taking on the extra time real estate that we had here and the remainder of the hours and sharing with us a lot more in depth than we thought we had.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate coming in
pleasure.
studio as well. Hope to see you soon.
I appreciate you having us.
Oh yeah,
Thank you,
wonderful.
Vince.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.